We got Bama at Arkansas this week. Big line on this one. I didn't know it, but it had risen all the way to 17.5 today. What does that sound like? Texas. Yeah, sounds like Bama at Texas. What happened there? Bama almost got beat by Texas. Everyone remembers that. And yet, odds makers are aware of that too. And there they are. They're just hanging it. They're just hanging at 17.5 in front of it. You want it? You want Arkansas at 17.5? Take it, buddy. Come on, jump up, take it. There you go. Take it. They want you to take it. Are we going to take it? Well, we'll see. I think it was Jimmy Dykes, ironically in the world of basketball, that once said, a wounded hog is a dangerous hog. Jesse, I want you to remember that. A wounded hog is a dangerous hog. Hey, Meemaw used to say the same thing, and they're both right. Jimmy Dykes and Meemaw. A wounded hog, a dangerous hog. And that's exactly what Alabama's going to face this Saturday. Backs against the wall up there. Not wounded animal mode, wounded hog mode. And whoops amongst us hasn't been in that position a time or 10 in our lives. Alabama, I don't know where they misplaced that secret road elixir they used to have, but they don't have it, or they haven't had it. It used to be that when Bama played a big game at home, I got kind of a little bit nervous. When they went on the road, I never had a doubt about them. They were a better road team than a home team for quite a while. That's not been the case. So whatever that little secret sauce they used to have is, Georgia fans will tell you it was just Kirby. Whatever it was they used to have, if they find it this week, they could drum Arkansas. However, why should I think this is the week they find it? It wasn't there in week 2. It wasn't there against Florida or A&M or Auburn last year, so is this the week they find it? I don't know. I tend to think eventually one week they're going to stumble upon it and they're just going to completely and absolutely splatter someone. But until that day, let's remain cautious about just laying these massive numbers with Bama on the road. Nick Saban's been there since 2007, and yet there's only one team, one ranked team, that they've put up 671 yards of total offense against. In his entire time there, against ranked teams, who do you think they have the most single-game yardage against? It's Arkansas, and it was last year. They had 671 total yards in this game. Bryce threw for about 560 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's the first thing that has to change for Arkansas if they have a shot to pull the upset here. Obviously, you can't get shredded like that through the air and stand much of a chance. Now, if I were to remember where that game was played, it was Tuscaloosa, so you certainly have home field on your side this year. I remember back a couple of weeks ago how shook Bama's offensive line was, how shook Bama's team was playing on the road in Austin. You got to create that kind of environment, and you got to let the chips fall where they may. That's the first thing that has to change here, because the Arkansas secondary is vulnerable. Everyone knows that. How will Bill O'Brien choose to attack it? Because against Texas, one of the big takeaways coming out of that is not enough tempo, not enough plays run. The wide receiver core kind of let them down. I told you after that game, I do not expect those to be season-long problems. I think you'll see a little change up this Saturday. Now, whether they execute or not, totally different story. I think they will attempt to go about things a different way this Saturday. Here's the second thing Arkansas needs to go a different way from last year if they're going to compete. I think they have to double their yards per carry. In this game last year, Arkansas, that great rushing attack of Arkansas had 2.6 yards per carry. And that's not good enough. They probably need to do something like doubling that number, among other things, if they're going to pull an outright upset here. If they're at 4.5 yards per carry or better, that's when we start to talk about them doing that and then some other things and then having a shot. If they're not in that 4.5 to 5 yards per carry range, the rest of what we're talking about, probably a moot point. You got the 9th best ground game in the country in Arkansas. That's the good news. The bad news is Bama's got the 4th best rush defense in the country. Speaking of which, could we just take a time out for a second? I saw our buddy Cole Kubelik, friend of the program. I know because he sent me footage of himself watching the program earlier today. Cole had the Bama game last week, and he put out something earlier today, and he was just asking if any of those Pete Golding haters, the Fire Pete Golding crowd, are they around right now? Does anyone know? Because I look on the back of every milk carton, and I see a Fire Pete Golding person. I haven't seen them in person as of late. They've kind of disappeared, probably because of the aforementioned rushing statistic I just read to you. Bama's defense has been pretty good this year. Here's what would bring them out of the woodwork pretty quickly. If KJ Jefferson did what Quinn Ewers and even Hudson Card, to a degree, started to do against Bama, Just throw it up. Just take shot plays against them and make those corners play the ball in the air. What if you find out that that you flag your way 15 yards at a time down the field against Bama's secondary because they can't keep their hands off of your receivers? That would bring the Fire Pete Golden crowd out of the woodwork pretty quickly. I think Terrion Arnold plays the ball in the air about as well as any corner they have, by the way. He's a true freshman. That's a little side note. That, along with a greatly improved rushing game, those are really three things that Arkansas has to do differently this year. Let's take a look at the model, and let's take a look at what the Vegas number is. I told you this thing's inflated all the way to 17.5. We think it's too big. The model has Bama minus 14. Now, in reality, you know how these games go. There's a very low probability of Bama actually winning the game by 14. This is an aggregation of 100 simulations, and it comes out to Bama minus 14 on average. What happens here is you got a bunch of games in the bag here, and some of them are Bama narrowly winning, and some of them are Bama blowouts, and then it all averages out to Bama minus 14. But that's what we have to go on. So I'm going to take Alabama to win the game, but I am absolutely not laying 17.5 until I see them reestablish themselves on the road. So I will take Arkansas to cover. Now, the question is going to become, are we going to be adults in talking about Arkansas after that? Or are we going to be you are what your record says you are casual and dismiss them entirely, knowing good and well, had they played North Carolina's schedule so far, they'd be undefeated. Choose ye this day which ideology you will go by, but as for me and my household here, we will use common sense. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Make sure you like the video and please subscribe to the channel. Not just for me, that's how we keep this entire thing free.